surfing the Big Bowel.
Hi, I'm Trinity here at Creating Butterflies, and today we need to talk about poop. I know it's a delicate subject, but it really needs to be talked about, because when your bowels and your whole digestive system are working well, you will experience the best health of your life. And if you're constipated, if things are not moving through your system, your body just will not be able to absorb the nutrients that it needs to work at its best. Sometimes, I've had friends who say to me, sometimes they get backed up and they don't know what to do, so they go to Rite Aid and they get Pepto-Bismol or some sort of laxative, and they find relief that way. What I want to let you know, however, is that laxatives can become addicting. Your body can lose the natural enzymes that it was born with, that are designed to literally eat up the food particles inside your intestines and break them down into little teeny tiny pieces that can be absorbed by the cells of your body. We have lots of bacteria in us. Some of it's bad and some of it's good. And the good bacteria that is supposed to live in your tummy, that eats up your food and breaks it into those little particles, is what we are going to grow today. We are going to make sauerkraut. This is one of the easiest things in the world to make. All you need is a little bit of cabbage and a little bit of salt. That's all you need. Oh, you also need something to pound the cabbage with, but that's the fun part. We'll get to that. The thing that is so amazing is we're going to ferment this cabbage over a period of about a week. And something called lactofermentation will happen. And little bubbles, little gases will come. And when it's ready, you eat this stuff. And it's nice and crunchy and salty and it's delicious. You can mix it with your eggs, your hamburgers, your pizza. You can put it on anything or just eat it right out of the jar. And within 24 hours, you will be surfing the Big Bowel. Whoop, real nice and smooth. All right, very quickly, look, this is all we're gonna need. All right, we're gonna need a head of cabbage, and we're gonna need a nice big bowl, some really sharp knives. I already sharpened these. A nice sized cutting board, a jar to put our cabbage in, one of these, maybe one of these. You don't absolutely have to have one of these, but these are really cool. I'll talk about that. A pounder, a wooden pounder of some kind. Salt, little bowl, put your salt in, and we're gonna need a tablespoon and just a regular spoon. To begin with, the first thing we're gonna do is put 2 tablespoons of your salt. Now, I recommend pickling or canning salt. I use a special salt here out of Utah. I'll talk about that later, some other video. This is great. You need 2 tablespoons, and you want to put it in a bowl, a small bowl with a teaspoon, so that you have it right there at your fingertips, because we're about to get a little bit messy. All right, we're going to start with the cabbage. The first thing you want to do is remove the outermost layers of leaves and put them aside, because we're going to use those for something at the very end. And if you see any imperfections, like see there's a little dirt mark right there, you can remove as much as you want, really. Well, that one will be good. I'm going to keep that one for the end. And you just put those off to the side. All right, now feel that. Listen to that. That's the core. It's pretty tough. So we're gonna go ahead and cut the core out first. And I'm using my smaller knife because my big knife can be scary at times. All right, there you can see. Now this just goes right in your compost. So I'm gonna put it aside in there. And then we will take our larger knife and very carefully cut this puppy in half. This is, oh, a good cabbage is gonna be real tight. This is something for mom to do. You don't want the little kids doing this part, okay? And I'll put one aside. And now we are going to, I always cut it one more time. And now I take my smaller knife. There are cutters that you can use. There's food processors that you can use. But really all you need is a nice sharp knife. And the idea is to cut nice little thin slices like this, okay? And you're going through all those layers. Come on in and take a look. Can you see all these different layers? Look at that. I have heard it said that a vegetable will mimic the organ in the body that it is most healthful for. So take a look, take a look. Can you zoom in here? Let's look at all these twists and turns and curves, just like intestines in your bowels. The inside of a cabbage looks a lot like a person's bowel. It's a really beautiful, wonderful, wonderful vegetable from God. All right, now, so if you can zoom in so that we can see here what I'm talking about as far as how thin those slicers that you buy, the slicers that your grandma had and so forth before electric food processors were invented, you just hold it and go like this and it would automatically cut these for you. But yeah, it doesn't take very long. And before you know it, you've got a nice amount of this stuff in your bowl. Okay, so what we're really trying to do here is get salt on all the surface area of these little strands, because salt is a drawer. It will draw moisture out of just about anything. That's why you're not supposed to salt your meat when you're cooking it, because it'll draw moisture out and make it a little bit tougher. So what I'm doing here is I'm gonna put a nice little layer of my strands in here, and then I'm gonna take my teaspoon and I'm gonna sprinkle it in. Can you see there? Sprinkle it all in. And then see how some of it lays in the bottom of the bowl? I don't want it on the bottom of the bowl. I want it on the plant matter. So I'm going in with my clean hand and I'm squeezing it, and every time I squeeze, the crystals of the salt kind of tear the fibers of the skin of the cabbage, opening up passageways for the moisture to come out. All right, so my goal here, as I said, is to get salt on the complete surface area of this entire cabbage. All right, so I cut and I cut and I cut and I cut, and I throw it in and I cut some more, etc., etc. And the only hand that gets dirty, believe it or not, is this hand, because I'm putting the salt in. And when I say dirty, I don't mean dirt, I mean salty and grainy and okay? So I've got one hand that I'm using to mix the salt into the fibers, and the other hand is clean, it can touch the knife, no problem, etc. So now we're gonna go and cut the rest of the cabbage up. All right, now we have the challenge, the big challenge. We've got to get all that into here. all right? And we're going to smash it down as hard as we can. And as we do that, the cabbage is going to expel moisture. It's amazing how it works. So just take a look. All right, I want you to take a look in here. Look, if you will, can you see in there how much moisture is coming up? I have not added any moisture. This is all coming from the plant matter itself and the salt. Now, when you do this, I'm sure there's another way to do it, but I put my hands, my elbows like this so that the the jar won't go running across. We're gonna keep filling this puppy up. I'm not sure if we'll be able to get it all in, but we're gonna try our best. And if we don't get it all in, we'll just make a little pint or something. Okay, I've made a decision. I'm not gonna get the rest of this in here. So I've decided to put it into another quart. It'll probably fill the quart jar up to about there. And I'm just not sure if I could get all that into a pint, so we're gonna try a quart. But at this point, I want to talk about the salt and the moisture and mold. If you can see that the moisture, we've got, what, I don't know, about an inch of moisture that has come out of literally half of this cabbage. And as long as the leaves stay underneath the liquid, they're not going to mold or rot or anything, because salt is a preservative. Now, anything that happens to float to the top, however, and is exposed to air during the fermenting process might mold. So over the years, people have used different things. You know, women used to make sauerkraut in big crocks. They'd make enough for the whole family, and they would just put their little plug in the top, and it would keep it down. But since we're doing a very small portion, we're going to use the leftover cabbage leaf from the beginning that I said, let's just keep this. All right, now we're gonna let that cabbage leaf push down all the stuff underneath. Okay, now notice that there is moisture on top of this cabbage leaf, but the rest of the leaves are underneath here. So if anything's gonna be moldy, it would be this extra cabbage leaf, and you can just gently remove it. The mold is not gonna work its way down into here like sometimes happens with things, because the salt is a preservative. Now, the lacto fermentation is going to begin, and when it does, this thing's gonna bubble a little bit, and gases will escape. So this little thing, which I was snookered into buying because I was just learning on the internet how to do this. This thing probably cost me 10 bucks, but it has a little hole in it here for the gas to escape. And any liquid, as it expands, as the gas does its thing, it's gonna expand, and sometimes it just spills out over. So notice I've left some headroom here for the expansion. And I'm gonna put this on, and it's going to sit on my counter outside of the sunlight for anywhere from 2 days to 10 days, all right? You can test it when it's to your liking. I mean, you could even eat it right now. I mean, oh my gosh. Oh, I love doing sauerkraut this way because there's no high heat. The enzymes stay in there. And at the end of a week or 10 days, whenever I decide to cap this, I'll just put a regular cap on it and stick it in the refrigerator. And the cool temperatures will then stop the fermentation, and the salt will prevent mold from forming. And it will stay in the refrigerator for, well, I usually eat it up pretty quick, but a couple of months, easy. And when you take your fork and you pull it out, it's crunchy. Oh, it'll still be nice and crunchy. and it just helps those bowels work so, so well. And gosh, I love it on everything. Now, we do have the rest, and I do not have another one of these caps. So I'm gonna fill this one as far as I can with this, get the moisture, put a little leaf on top, and then I'm going to use just a piece of clean cotton material, and I will put it there with a canning lid, and I'll put the two beside one another, and in, you know, anywhere from 2 days to 10 days, I will have a half gallon of sauerkraut ready to rock and roll. Remember to put some labels on with the date that you made it, so that you'll remember when 10 days has elapsed. Then just cap it with a solid lid and stick it in the refrigerator. And that's how you do it when you want to surf the Big Bowel. Happy pooping! Oh, and you're welcome.
Oh gosh.